the people concerned. There was Sidona, who was a financier in the States, but he came across to the Vatican to work with the Vatican Bank. Archbishop Marcinkus, again an American that was working in the Vatican Bank, he was the head of the bank. Calvi, which some of you will know, was found hanging under one of the bridges in London. He was Bank Ambrosiano. These people controlled the money, and it was appalling, the corruption where this money went. Another one, you'll remember the name, I actually talked about her as Teresa, Saint Teresa. She was given millions of pounds in donations, never spent the money on her convents or hospitals or anything, never spent it, gave it all to the Vatican. Vatican, it disappeared. So no one knows what happened to that. So, allied to Marcinkus was a guy called Jelly. He was, again, a financier. He set up the P2 Lodge, Freemasons. The P2 Lodge were very much involved in manipulating politics, manipulating people, arranging money to be paid to people, and all that kind of thing. So there he was, basically a puppet master. He was head of that lodge. And if you were a member of the lodge, you can guarantee that you were going to have a nice living, because the money that was coming in was distributed round the members. So then we've got the main ones who were involved and had reasons to be upset with John Paul. Because, what did he say? First thing he said was, don't like Freemasons in the church. They will all be kicked out. Oh, I think we ought to do something about contraception. Again, people were not happy. Then we need to look at what our priests are up to. Found Cardinal Cody, based in Chicago, had a mistress who was on the payroll and had a pension plan. And she decorated his apartment. So he was going to sack him. So that's another nasty. And it went on from there. Now, the biggest problem that happened was Sidona, who was the American financier, was not just a financier. He was a member of the mafia. And the mafia were using Bank Ambrosiano and the Vatican Bank to launder money. Now, you're thinking, how could they get away with that? Well, easy, because nobody ever checked the books because Marcinkus wouldn't let them. And Bank Ambrosiano went bust, so they couldn't really do much about that. So the money was sort of revolving around the Vatican and coming out to various people, but nobody knew how much or where it was going to. Calvi, who was involved with Bank Ambrosiano, and it went bust, as I said, he got into the situation where he knew too much. And that's when they found him hanging under the bridge. The theory is that he upset the mafia too much because he said too much, and so he was removed, which is a normal mode of operation for the mafia. So what happens next? Well, the biggest problem that John Paul I had was how could he get the Vatican hierarchy to stop doing what they were doing. They were just, as you said, they were not priests, they were not bishops, they were just abusing the system. They really were just abusing it. Now, what do you do? He wrote this amazing paper, and it was a complete breakdown of everything that was going on. He was an expert at writing papers. If he was given a problem, he'd go away with it and spend 2 or 3 days going over and over, and then coming back and giving everybody the details. He was doing the same. He was creating a document explaining how he wanted these changes to take place. 33 days after he was elected, he died. 33 days. Vatican claimed that it was a heart attack. His doctor said there's no evidence of heart problems. We need a post-mortem. Vatican would not allow a post-mortem. So nobody really knows why, how he died. What he did was sit in his bed reading before he went off to sleep. His nun used to come and bring him a tray of coffee and biscuits every morning. That particular morning he didn't take them in, so she went in to find out what happened. And he was dead. But the documents were all on his bed. They disappeared. All of them disappeared. Now, nobody can prove what really happened to John Paul because of the lack of the post-mortem. He did set things in motion and produced these documents, and what happened? They elected John Paul II, who was given the documents, who did absolutely nothing. He didn't fire Cardinal Coley. He didn't look at contraception. He didn't look at corruption in the Vatican Bank. So as a Pope, I don't rate him at all. He's not one of my favourites. I think that I've given you enough information on it. But if you need to know more, book called In God's Name by David Yallop. I interviewed him many years ago, and that book is pretty good at explaining what happened. And I will leave it there.